I am with Let Women Speak. I'm down from Leicester, so I've travelled up here to say partly no woman has a penis, no man has a vagina, trans-binary is nonsense, and transitioning children is profound abuse. We say this with the backing of Kellie Jay Keen, who gives us Let Women Speak events where we can speak on current events that are affecting women and children today. So we give a ring to hear survivors share their tales, or to hear whistleblowers who are trying to get their word out, or to hear women that are just frustrated with the state of the world, and to encourage women to support women. So we came to Oldham today based on the grooming gang story that people have been trying to break for far too long. We get accused of being really far right, and I'd rather be that than really far wrong. So my politics, no one stops to ask the politics. My politics are a mix of left and right sort of things that I think we could do a lot more by helping each other clean our own houses. So I'm a lesbian, so I also campaign through this for there being no queer ideology in school. And I think the queer ideology support the civil service and the Home Office, the support that puts it into our schools, is exactly the same route as the people who are protecting the child rapers. So it all comes down to child abuse. And they say more white men are abusing white children, white men, brown men, people of every colour are abusing white children. They're abusing children of other colours as well. Do you know what I mean? But here in England, we have predominantly white children. Our children are being raped and tortured. And we need to find a way to unite the people to stand up and say no. But I think the rope only burns upwards. It starts with these street gangs, but it burns up to the very top. We've seen Prince Andrew. We've seen him wriggling on BBC. So we know that it goes all the way through the police service, through the civil union, and that's why they don't want us looking. So it's going to take all the people of all the colours to work together, because not everybody's bad. We're not white supremacists, but if you're a Pakistani, then you need to look at your Pakistani community. I'm a lesbian, so I look at the gay community and I call out behaviours of people in my community. Leave the kids alone. Don't fuck kids. Simples.
Well, the silencing around victims of grooming, of paedophile, Pakistani Muslim paedophile rape and torture gangs, and Oldham just kept coming up, and I've created a platform of free speech, and so I just thought, what can I do? And that's what I can do.
I'm an Oldham resident. I'm 71 years old, born and bred in Oldham. I've come up here today because I've seen it advertised about CSC and other things. My particular knowledge is only the same of everybody else's regarding the cover-up, regarding the CSC. And how we need to hold our councillors and our politicians to account. And even last night, they're bickering among themselves. They had 2 years to sort out implications and to sort out through Andy Burnham's insurance review, and yet nothing were done for 2 years. It's absolutely scandalous. But it's like one party against another, and this is where it's failing. We elect our local councillors and our politicians, and their overriding duty should be for us, the electorate, pure and simple. And every government in every country, their overriding duty is for its citizens, and we're being neglected. And the role of politicians now is the lowest of the law, in my opinion. They're the scum, absolute scum. They don't listen to us, they block us. I mean, here in Oldham, I've been banned a year for speaking out in the public gallery regarding councillors. I were only allowed back in once a year ago. I've been given an 18-month ban, and all for holding our councillors whose overriding duty is to us. Now, what use is having standards if they don't adopt and implement the standards? Some of them are in law, and yet they still seem to be able to get away with it. But regarding this CSC, absolutely despicable. But it goes on. You've just had Keir Starmer and the Labour, not the eating from elderly pensioners, you know, where there's no eating allowance. Well, I'll just say this regarding that. If before you can claim benefits for a single person, your savings is 6,000, supposing you need a roof repair, supposing you need a new front door, new windows, that's your money gone. So, what do you fall back on? Do you still have to keep going out for handouts? And the thing is, regarding this lot and the cover-up, when their hands were caught in the till for the MP's expenses scandal, they all come out. We must remember we are accountable to the public. Where's it gone? We scream out we want help, and yet we're neglected. And what it is politics, it's a ping-pong game. So for 5 years, you might have Labour in. Then they do wrong because the Conservatives left a mess. Then the Conservatives condemn Labour because they've left us in a mess. And what we must remember for the 14 years of that last Conservative government is the note that Labour left. Good luck, no money left. It's absolutely scandalous. But regarding this issue, CSE, they should have acted upon it. And where the police have been brought in, that they were negligent, and even on our front page, 2022, of the Oldham Chronicle, where the police and the Oldham Council, both partners, covered up to protect their own failings. Absolutely scandalous. And I have done 3 protests just round the corner here, Oldham Parish Church, regarding clergy. So we've got it in the Church of England, the Catholic Church, the Methodist Church, who covered up and protected their own paedophilia clergy. How far does it go? Absolutely scandalous. I'm 71, I'm getting tired of all this. I've been at it for 7 years. To the young people here taking it on, good luck to them. We need to hold our politicians to account. And our role must never just end at the ballot box. So when we elect them in, they subdue us, they shut us up. Our role, electing these people to serve us in an honest, transparent, honest way, it should never end at the ballot box. We should hold them to account.
What do you think of the term TERF?
Totally excellent, realistic females. Totally excellent, realistic females. I don't know that I would class myself as a feminist. I believe in women's rights. I believe in men's rights. Do you know what I mean? I believe that people are valuable but different. So trans exclusionary, I exclude them from my reality. What you do with yourself in your personal spaces is your business. What you do to try and make me inflict your fantasy in my intimate places of my life when you're a stranger and I don't know you, I have the right to say no. And we have to protect that right to say no. So you can call me what you want, you can call me a TERF, you can call me far right, do you know what I mean? You can kiss my ass because you don't fuck kids.
Thank you so much.
No matter what team you're on.
I don't care about the term tough. I mean, I don't believe that people can change sex, and I don't want men in women's spaces, and I don't think you should be teaching it in schools. So if that means I'm a TERF, then fine.
Talking about CSE, is that something that you've recently started talking about, or is that something that's been part of your activism since the beginning?
CSC broadly no, but you know the grooming gangs I talked about before, but you know, boundaries are my thing. So boundaries is always. Child sexual abuse is always on anybody's mind when we talk about safeguarding and boundaries.
Within these homes, there was older girls who were very disturbed, young women, and then they used to speak to the younger girls or the newer girls and recruit them to run with them and have fun, smoke. They'll give you cigs, they'll give you vodka, they'll give you cannabis. Now, I'm sorry, but any working class girl at 13, 14 and 15 who's being offered free cigarettes, free alcohol, and free cannabis is going to go. And that was the grooming process. The grooming process started with substances. We took the numbers down of the cars. I think they were just thrown in the bin. I said to my senior, why can't, this is happening regularly, why can't we do something about it? And she said, well, if we write their ethnicity down, it will upset social cohesion. So if I tell the truth about what's happening here, with predominantly white, very young girls, and they were very disturbed girls. And what I'll end on is on Sunday nights, when these girls used to be returned, these girls would look like they'd been mauled by animals, because they had been mauled by animals. Some of them were still high as a kite on drugs, and they were up and down, amphetamines and that. Some of them were completely silent and withdrawn and disassociated. There was one girl we had to call an ambulance to because there were only children here. She was bleeding so badly from her anus. And we couldn't do anything. Local authority care homes, and you'd think that, and I still can't get over it, and I'd forgotten this period of my work life until about a year ago, when Maggie Oliver wrote something about the grooming in Rotherham and Rochdale in 2002. And I thought, hang on a minute, this was happening in 91, 92, 93, because I'd seen it happening, and I'd seen the results of the girls coming back in who were mauled, literally bruised, mauled, and they wouldn't say who they'd been with, but the attraction was these groomers, these rapists, made them feel like grown-ups.
If a minor, a girl, can go and access contraception, then she's far easier to traffic, right? I mean, it's a gift to traffickers, rather than try and sort out the relationships between parents and children and ensure that parents don't lose the grip of rights over their children. We seem to just find these solutions all the time that just take the parents out of the equation. At the moment, our government is trying to sort of get your kids into state schools from about, 3.5 weeks, with 7 meals a day, all for free, that we all have to pay for. But the breakfast clubs, I don't think that's a good thing. If we really cared about our children, we'd be trying to make them have more time at home with well-paid parents who can actually afford to stay home and look after their children until their children are at least out of infancy.
We are continually told that girls raped by immigrant rape gangs are only a small part of the overall child sex abuse figures, that most child rapes are committed in the home by white men. I've even seen TERFs use this argument, not just sock femmes, actual TERFs. It's okay for some women to focus our attention on one element of child sexual abuse and male depravity, just as anti-surrogacy campaigners focus on one aspect of the exploitation of women based on our reproductive capacity. That is, after all, what TERFs have done with regard to men who claim to be women. We highlight the boundary erosion and added risk posed to women and girls by this particular group of men. We point out that we did not consent to these men being in our spaces, that we already face enough risk for men without this added burden. I would argue that the same applies to these rape and torture gangs, the majority of whom are Pakistani or Muslim immigrants from other countries. We were not asked if we were okay with mass immigration of men from cultures that managed to be even more overtly rapey and misogynistic than ours, We did not consent to these men being in our country, just as we did not consent to trans-identified men being in our spaces. All rapists are men, that is true. There is no safe demographic of men. It is also true that some demographics of men pose more of a risk to women and girls than others. We know this is the case for trans-identified men. We have demonstrated the truth of that claim through crime reports and prison statistics. We have stood up to the name-calling and obfuscation. We don't crumble when we're told that trans women only commit a small amount of male violence against women and girls. We must do the same when detractors tell us that rape and torture gangs only represent a small amount of child sexual abuse, when we are called racist, Islamophobic, far-right and bigoted for highlighting this particular problem.
It's just a single incident that happened to my family. I have a daughter who's 33, she now lives in Italy, but 10 years ago, she was walking through our village, 10 miles from Blackburn, 300 yards from home. She was on a date with a young chap who happened to be wearing a dress, but they're on a date, and a car pulled up beside her, 4 Pakistani Muslim men in the car, and they tried to drag her into the car. This was in the centre of the village, on the high street. There were cameras all over the place. She was terrified to death. They were calling her white slag. They threatened her. They grabbed at her, tried to get her in. Thankfully, the man she was with, a young white man, could fight, and he defended her. He defended her against 4. She managed to lose her grip, run across the road, into a local pub, get some help. Help came out. Who do you think got arrested? A friend that she was on the date with, that defended her, stopped her from getting dragged into the car.
Just thinking about my own grandfather and men that came before us and fought, and I just thought, who are those men now? Like, who would my grandfather, who got on that boat, and when he was on that boat, the men that weren't coming home knew they weren't coming home. And I guess I still have the memory, and I got that first story told by my grandfather to me. So it's a very real story for me. It's not a picture, it's not a book. It's not some testimony that I've read somewhere about some account of something. It's a really real story. And I just thought, who are those men? Well, they're the men that went out and got arrested for fighting and causing a riot. I'm not saying that all of them were not criminal, and I'm not saying all of them were great people at all. But I'm saying that the men in our society right now who get most of our condemnation and our kind of bad press, bad view, see them as oiks. They're the front line men. They're the men that would be cannon fodder, right? So we just have to try and step back sometimes and see things with a really broad focus. The only reason hundreds and thousands of girls across this country were raped and tortured by Pakistani, Muslim, paedophile grooming gangs was because we didn't care enough about the girls to stop it. I mean, we can say it's loads of other stuff and how that manifests. How did it manifest? Well, you don't want to be racist, but racist against what? Rape. The sacrifice of our girls, or being seen as being racist. Not even being racist, just being seen as being racist. And we chose the sacrifice of our girls. There's nothing else that makes sense. Government, will you do an inquiry? Well, we've done one. Okay, can you do 2? Can we have 2? Can we just have 2? For the thousands upon thousands, just 2. For the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of girls. Can we have 2? Can we make each council do one? Can we arrest some people? Do you reckon we could do that? Those women that sent those girls back out when that girl came home and asked for money for a taxi and then went out and got raped again. She'd been raped, she got home, she used a taxi to try and get, and they wouldn't pay. Can we arrest some people there, please? Is that not a crime? If it's a crime for me to go and I don't know, go to that safe deposit box centre and go and steal something from it, if that's a crime, an arrestable offence, and there's a name and a statute and a legislation and a crime, if that's one of those things, why is it not a crime to sit back and put your feet up while girls in your town, while you're the council leader of Oldham, why is it not a crime to allow those girls to be raped?
I like what I heard.
But I heard a little bit of you. Fair play. Oh, thank you so much. Really nice to see you. Good work. All right, cheers.